Alright guys, I am back with the milk. It has been far too long, and I believe I owe you a tiny explanation as to why. To be fair, it wasn't completely my fault. There was this mobile game that had total control over my life for about a month. A good chunk was also put into a game that will definitely not get me on my 8th watch list.
This is the time of vengeance, and no life is worth saving. It's time for me to kill, and it's time for me to die.
And as for the rest of that time, well, for legal reasons, let's just say I went through some pretty rigorous character development, was faced with some pretty tough shit, and was at a low point for a while. A low point that would give the average man room to grow, to rise above the chaos, to plug walk it off and become a white-pilled beacon of hope. And with lots of time to reflect, I've given it some careful thought. I've decided to become worse. I'm sure a lot of you are like, what happened? Well, I'll give you a clue, a 7-syllable hint. The Book of Boba Fett. A lot of you guys thought that episodes 6 and 7 broke me, and that I'd never come back. Which is only half true. 6 is one thing, but after watching 7, I sat down to start the review script, and had a real Drake moment. I was just like, I can't fucking do this, and pushed the whole thing off up until now. And in my self-administered exile, I also decided to watch the Kenobi show, and I got stun-locked. Now, to the writers in my audience, I'm sure some of you experienced writer's block after going through a burnout, through a loss of a family member, or just out of nowhere. Well, the Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi didn't give me writer's block. The Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi gave me writer's tree-sized splinter up my ass. But guess what, Disney? I finally pulled out. And yes, Kenobi is getting a video that is even longer than this one. But for right now, let's talk about Boba. It's been almost 7 months since my last upload, so I want to start to make it up to you guys by covering the last 2 episodes in one go. The first half will be devoted to episode 6, and the last one will be for episode 7. Pretty simple deal. There's some issues with 6, but 7 is very special. So if you guys want to hear me say nothing but great things about it, skip to this point in the video. Without any more intro fluff, let's dive headfirst into a pretty large video. So there's 2 sides to how I feel about episode 6, and they're vastly different from one another, which is a pretty unique feeling because rarely in my life have I been so split on a movie or episode. But we're in a strange situation here, so it kinda makes sense. In terms of it being an episode in a Boba series, it disappointed me. It's the 2nd episode in a row where he hasn't uttered a word, and it makes me feel bad for Temuera Morrison. It's like they don't have faith in the character's ability to support his own show, and are looking at all these other characters going, they can do this better. Now, they're allowed to give us a break from Boba, but to the extent at which they've taken that break personally didn't sit well with me. Because in isolated terms of this just being an episode in a Star Wars universe, I really liked this one. And that's why I'm torn, because this one makes you care about characters more than any other episode. It humanizes, amps up the cool factor, but Boba is nowhere to be found. It's as though they wanted Boba Fett to be the spearhead of his own show for the first half of the season. They were confident that what we would get would satisfy our thirst for Boba, and after that devote the rest of the season to setting up others, and focus more on characters we've already taken a liking to. I don't like that, and I think Boba should be more highlighted in his own show, because he's a great character, I love him, so do countless other people. Every episode feels like it could be the beginning of the season, and I think I know why. Each director wants to ease into their flavor. They each have a vision, a blueprint for the episode, with a distinct feel and flow unique to themselves. This show, in terms of flow and creativity, feels undeniably choppy when you put each episode next to one another. I believe that the episodes that have sucked so far, sucked because the directors didn't care about Boba or Star Wars enough. And while that still could be the case, I think it might also be good to come at things from a different angle. Maybe the reason this show feels so incohesive thus far isn't due to the lack of love they have for Star Wars. Maybe they care just as much as us, but all have different ideas of what makes a good Boba episode. They want to make it unique from the others, they want to please fans, and they want to please themselves with the end result. It's a big opportunity to be partially in charge of something like this, and I can't exactly blame them for wanting to ease into their interpretation, and not just jump into the material Favreau provided them and create a picture-perfect copy. Each episode takes things slow, and a lot of me thinks that this is because each director wants to take time building their corner of the world, not just jump into the same headspace as the episode prior and pick up where they left off, because anybody can do that. Regardless of why the incohesiveness happens, I think multiple directors is a mistake, and with how strongly people feel about different episodes, either hating one, loving one, or not caring at all, it's safe to say that others view it as a mistake too. And I think that point is only strengthened with the release of episode 6, because a lot of people like it. This director made the deliberate choice to not surround it around Boba like the first 4 episodes, and instead he chose to put his faith in 3 different relationships: Cobb Vanth and Tatooine, Ahsoka and the Mandalorian, Luke and Grogu. And if I take out the big concern of they're done progressing Boba's story and character, I like this one. And I'm going to talk about it today as if that concern weren't there at all. Okay, so let's first talk about Cobb Vanth's section, the spaghetti western portion of the episode. I love this first scene, mostly just because of Timothy Olyphant, Elephant Maleficent, who the fuck knows. He's a brilliant actor, and you can tell that Dave Filoni was just like, you know, Justified? Give me some of that shit. And he delivers. I know a lot of people like other parts of this episode, but his performance is one of my favorite things about it. He steps up to a group of Pikes handling spice, lays down the law, and out-sigmas each and every one of them. He's lethal but merciful. Good stuff so far, it's entertaining. Later in the episode, he gets visited by Mando, and is asked to bring all able fighters in Mos Pelagio to help Boba fight off the Pikes, so that Boba's crime syndicate, that doesn't do any crime, can continue not doing crime. He's like, nah. My people are tired of fighting. And I was like, fighting? They put some landmines under the sand and ran away with their penises between their legs. But no, Cobb Vanth, we're outnumbered and outgunned by a drug empire. And what we really need is people like Ballsack Bartender on our team. They have a nice back and forth tug of war, which results in Corn on the Cob saying, I'll see what I can do. Mando leaves and heads back to Jabba's palace. Vanth calls for a town meeting to band everyone together, and we see a strange figure approaching from the distance. 0.2 microseconds into this shot, I was like, that's a hat on that man. No fucking way, they're actually doing a live action Cad Bane. Well, color me soaked and bothered. But the blue hunk takes his time coming into town. The suspense building up for almost 2 minutes, and he finally speaks.
Whatever Fett is paying you, we'll match. And all you've got to do is stay put and let things play out.
The new guy's like, hey, Marshall's not for sale. And Vanth is like, bitch, if we survive this, my foot is going up your penis. There's so many pauses between words in this interaction, and mwah, it is so damn nice. Despite Cobb Vanth remaining cool, collected, and in control so far, we see him genuinely nervous here. And everything happening, the shots, the music, the pauses, it all makes Cad Bane feel maximum dangerous. He's so badass to the point where I almost started rooting for him. Not almost, I kind of did. That's how you give a fan favorite bounty hunter an entrance, Disney, not whatever this was. It's so painful knowing that they have the ability to craft characters and ambience like this on screen, but didn't use any of that same care with Boba in any of his 6 episodes thus far. Alright, so they have a 3-way standoff. New boy draws first. Cad Bane knows he's faster than him, but not Cobb Vanth on the way back. So he shoots him first, then mag dumps the other guy. You can tell everything in this scene was handled with love, by somebody that knows what we want to see and hear. And the rest of the episode was handled with the exact same mindful, delicate care. Let's dive into the Luke Mando portion of the episode. Din rolls up to the most zen-looking planet of all time, runs into R2-D2 and is like, where the fuck is my son? So they take a long walk around the premises and we see hex bugs crafting Luke's classrooms, which look a lot like those huts in The Last Jedi. But after R2 basically says suck a fat one and powers down, Ahsoka shows up out of nowhere. Wow, it's so great to see you. Why are you here? Oh, it isn't to help train Grogu. You're just a, quote, friend of the family, visiting at the exact same time Mando does so that you can explain to him and to the audience exactly how Grogu feels.
Get out.
That's one of my only gripes with this episode. The other being how they skipped past Luke and Ahsoka's meeting for the first time. It could have been pretty touching to see that interaction, but how they did it here and how they used Ahsoka didn't make a whole lot of sense. It kind of brought the this is blind fan service radar up a tiny bit, but not enough to take away too much from the episode for me. No, it actually did, but I'm listening to angelic choir music while I'm recording this, and I can feel the ears of luminescent beings pressed up against my heart, so we're gonna not get too pissed here. Mando is here to give Grogu the item Mommy crafted from last episode using the Beskar from his awesome spear. I know that last video I called it a Happy Meal toy and too small to actually be armor, but It turned out to be armor, so I'm guessing you're expecting me to eat my words here. I won't eat them, but I will give a tiny suckle. Because to be fair, nobody wears just chainmail. It's Under Armour. Wearing just that is like wearing just a full body iron fishnet. Some dude with a fucking blow tube can come out of nowhere and just shoot a poison dart right through any of the 2,000 holes. And boom, instantly dead. This take is intentionally horrendous. I just wish he'd have gotten something cooler than a cheap looking souvenir from medieval times. Like, what's next? A Beskar horn cup for the blue milk he's gonna drink? But Ahsoka says that he shouldn't see him, that doing so would only worsen the hurt for both of them, and throw off the momentum he's gained from recent training. Which makes sense, it's the way of the Jedi and all that mumbo jizz. But let's step into some controversial territory and talk about something I only know a little bit about. Don't both of these Force users have recent history of not completely aligning alongside traditional Jedi ways? Let the man see his fucking son. You're not here to train Grogu. You're here because you're a friend of the Skywalker family, which is totally Morse code for Luke's current fuck buddy. And I'm confused. Does the attachment rule only apply to younglings and Padawans in training? So after you pass the Jedi bar test, you can download Tinder and have as much intercourse as you want? Interesting. Oh, I can already feel the Redditors smashing their keyboard. Procreation was actually an essential variable in sustaining life at the Jedi Temple, Vorpal. Jedi could not form attachments in the vein of love, but were allowed to make macaroni noises with all the fat-ass aliens to create future generations of Force users. You are not only wrong about everything you've said in this video thus far, but have also put on display your palpable immaturity. And now let's get into the relationship that took up a large portion of the episode, Grogu and Luke, which I thought was good. The amount of screen time they gave Luke was nice. In the beginning I was like, wow, they really improved on the Luke CGI since The Mandalorian. It's good, but it still isn't perfect. It has a similar problem from last time where whenever we see him talk on screen, it looks a bit unnatural, kinda strange. That is until he's required to put any amount of emotion into the line.
Very good. What should I do about him? What should I do about him?
What the hell am I looking at?
It feels like he was so nervous that he wasn't gonna sound like Luke and focused on making every word pitch perfect. It just comes off a little forced and, in the words of Luke himself,
You're trying too hard.
but it's not all bad, and neither is the CGI this time, at least in my opinion. It didn't ruin the immersion for me like I thought it was going to. I like the Luke-Yoda training parallel they did here too. It was sweet, but sometimes it felt like he was being too harsh on the guy. You're moving too slow. My DoorDash is getting cold, you green little shit. One frog, really? I'm guessing you get 0 bitches, Grogu. No, that isn't how it works. Allow me to not elaborate on how it shoots fucking lasers. But it all works out and you see him not learning, just quote,
It's more like he's remembering than I'm actually teaching him anything.
What?
if you can straight up physically show him the past, what purpose has this training served so far? But despite some of these gripes, I liked this portion of the episode. They tried their absolute hardest to make Baby Yoda cute. And I'm not gonna lie, it fucking worked. Alright, let's see you jump. Oh my god! In the end, Luke shows him the gift Mando gave him, and also pulls out Yoda's lightsaber. You can either take the armor, choose attachment, and return to the Mandalorian and forsake the ways of the Jedi. Or you can join my 8-week program. Have this dope-ass lightsaber that was used to fight fucking Palpatine become my first student and become a cracked Jedi in the process. I'm a lot cooler than the Mandalorian. See? See? I don't know, the way he worded it here kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but it'll be interesting to see what Grogu chooses. We also get a short 60-second clip of the Pikes blowing up Twilight Ladies Club, which I thought was really out of place for where it was put. It definitely should have been at the start of the episode where we see Cobb Vanth dealing with the Pikes. It would have been more effective, I think. So just one small thing there, and that is the episode. Oh, I almost forgot that we get a really great cameo in this episode. If you skip around 28 minutes in, and you look hard enough, you can see the bounty hunter from the OT. What's his name? Fuck. Oh yeah, Boba Fett! Disney, what the hell are you doing? This is Boba's show, and you're making him watch as we drool all over these characters. Sure, yes, this episode was good if you look at it from a focused lens. But pardon my French, this show isn't an anthology series, is it? It's not about The Mandalorian, it's not about Luke Skywalker, it's not about Cobb Vanth or Grogu. It's about Boba Fett. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'd like to judge a show on how well its story flows between episodes and how well it synergizes with itself. If you want to make a movie or show on Luke training Grogu or diving deeper into The Mandalorian, go do that. Don't devote 4 episodes to one character and his story, then toss it all out the window so you can show us how much you love Cad Bane and Ahsoka.
I am Dave Filoni.
We like those characters too. But we also like Boba Fett. You know how you can tell? Because we're watching a show that is literally called The Book of Boba Fett. I gave myself time to think about this one, and you know what? Fuck what they're giving us here, dude. It's like they didn't have a plan. It's like the first half was directed by J.J. Abrams and the middle by Rian Johnson. Then went back to J.J. Oh wait, that's the sequels. They haven't doubled down on anything in this show, and I know I theorized in this video that that was because each director wanted to inject their own flavor, but dude, this is a show about one guy. He shouldn't be tossed between creative minds for 4 episodes, then get shoved to the curb when you guys feel like setting up spin-offs. Episode 6 was an entertaining watch, but ironically, it makes the show worse as a whole for me when I think about what went down behind closed doors. I wouldn't be surprised if 5 and 6 were never originally part of this show. It feels so odd when you put them next to the first 4 because they're nothing like them, because they're objectively better. And you know the one thing 5 and 6 both have in common? They didn't have Boba Fett in them. These directors maybe care about Star Wars as a whole, but at this point I feel pretty confident in saying that they give 0 fucks about Boba. Now, for this video's part 2, the other half. We're finally here. The finale of Season 1, again directed by Robert Rodriguez, a director I felt hasn't been a great fit for a creative steering of this show, but I saw the runtime, sat down with some pizza rolls, and was ready for things to get really good. After all, what's the worst that could happen? The episode begins with Fennec and Boba rolling up to the club from last episode, the one that got absolutely crop dusted out of nowhere, killing Twi'lek female and countless people inside. And no apparent retaliation from the law of Mos Espa ever took place on screen. There's no cops, or guards, or people that give a damn about anybody who just got vaporized in the club? Is that due to the Pikes having a firm grip over the city and having important people in their pockets? Well, probably. We get info later that the important figures Boba made peace with in episode 4 plan on betraying him the whole time. If the Pikes have this many people in Mos Espa shitting their pants and know for a fact that there's very little that could challenge them, why blow up a random nightclub sheltering people that have shown you no resistance? It's like the Kingpin blowing up a random donut shop in Hell's Kitchen, even though every police officer is already paid off. It's an entertainment joint that people who are bribed can go to chill. Oh, it's supposed to be a message? To who? The mayor's in his pocket, so it must be to Boba, right? Well, there's no way they could think Boba could stop them. They don't even know how many people fight for him. Fuck, neither does Boba. He just recruited the TikTokers, pulled Mando out of his ass, barely has Chrysanthemum, and is relying on a whole town of untrained fighters to show up. He's doing the project the night before it's due. And you're telling me the Pikes did this to send a message to Big Bad Boba? Fuck off. Take a shit on his doorstep or something. Don't instantly vaporize some random club in an area you already have decent control over. So Mando arrives to tell the duo that the people of Freetown are willing to fight for free if it means the severing of the Pike spice trade, which I thought was already a byproduct of winning this war. Hell, Boba explained in episode 4 that he wants to vanquish the Pikes because their trade threatens the planet, and that he wants to make the streets safe again, which was a speech made right in front of Fennec's ears. But in this episode, she's like, "You sure? There's a lot of money to be made from orange cocaine." It's like Robert Rodriguez skimmed through the script of every episode of Mando and Boba that wasn't his own to direct, so he could feel more comfortable about making each character soulless and brain dead. Now, Fennec's question here could just be to set up Boba's exposition on why he wants them gone for anybody that didn't watch episode 2, or 3, or 4. But at least set it up in a way that doesn't make Fennec look stupid and disconnected from her partner's ideals.
You fucking bitch! Move out the fucking way!
But after Boba acknowledges that spice is a blight to his city and how he's determined to stop its trade, he says,
"Spice is killing our people. Let Marshal Vant and the people of Mospelga.
Freetown is its name now.
Let the people of Freetown know they have my word."
Is it in character for Mando to interrupt the fuck out of Boba like this because he's so passionate about using the correct name of the town? They're both talking about the same place. Who gives a shit? But it is in character for Boba to yet again be someone's face to sit on.
No one respects you.
Boba gets the idea to station up at Jabba's palace because it offers greater protection. But TikToker says that it's a bad idea and that they should lock down here in the ruins. And the other one says, if you want to abandon the people of this city and go hide in your little palace, go for it. We're staying. We care so much more about this city than you. A city that houses people we stole from and people who wouldn't give us jobs. The people who live here need our protection? Oh, okay. So everyone in this city needs the protection of two people that barely caught up to some 15-mile-an-hour speeder? And the best way to protect all of them would be to hide in some ashy ruin with no cover. Alright, the Pikes aren't trying to blow up the city. They want to absorb it and turn it into a system in which their drug business can operate more efficiently. Right? Like, is that not the case? Isn't Jabba's palace right next to the city? I mean, the Rancor gets here pretty quick, doesn't it? They're going to try to take the palace sooner or later, and if Boba knows that he's the only thing standing between his city and the Pikes, shouldn't he be rushing to Jabba's palace to defend it? That's his place of residence, and you'd think would be the first place they'd strike before their assault on the city. A city that doesn't even care about avenging the people who died in the club the night before. Right? I mean, it's so weird.
That's weird.
But after Tumblr Mod tries to guilt-trip Boba, he looks at Fennec and Mando for approval like, guys, what should I do? Oh, you're waiting for me to make a decision because I'm literally the king of this city?
We'll stay.
How far are we into this episode? Let's check real quick. Oh my fucking god. We get a scene with Cad Bane, the Pike leader, and the mayor. But to be honest, I didn't pay attention to a single thing here because I was so hypnotized by Cad Bane's sexy-ass voice.
So when will this all be over?
That all depends on how much your two stomachs can bear.
Coming back to analyze the dialogue in this scene, nothing really happens except the leaders talking like, hey, you did this? Yes, I did that. Wish you did it a different way. Well, too late now. I have an idea, guys. Then it's on to the next scene. Meanwhile, the music is all menacing and villainous, and I just find that shit hilarious. They're trying so hard to make this meeting intimidating, and they think that the background ambience will add anything to its flavor, but it's like some skinny dude at a concert trying to support the weight of a 600-pound woman on his shoulders. It doesn't work. Two of the baddies in this scene have too much soy in their veins, and it kinda takes away from the badassery of Cad Bane. They're not really reactive to him, and it would have been a lot cooler for them to show at least an ounce of fear in his presence despite him being completely on their side. As I thought about that, I also realized these villains blow absolute cockroach taint. But why? Well, I think a lot of that has to do with their motive. I'm a bad guy. I like money. Boba Fett is in our way. It's bland as hell, but I feel like that's also because you can't fucking tell what they're feeling. This guy only moves his mouth and blinks. And this guy just talks out of his vagina ears. Now you can make aliens work, but at least give them more of a job to do than just drop exposition and reveal shit about the past that never becomes relevant in the future. In this scene, the Pike leader reveals that his goons were actually the ones that killed the Tusken Raiders, not the biker gang. You'd think that it would be brought up with substance later, right? Because after all, that totally collapses Boba's vengeance in episode 4. That means he killed the wrong people. But no, it's barely addressed. Boba doesn't go after the Pikehead. He isn't faced with any moral dilemmas on vengeance. Cad Bane just casually drops this to Boba and he has really zero reaction to it. It could have been a really interesting point in the episode and they literally set it up. But in the end, they choose to do nothing with it. The Tuskens were his family, so from Boba's point of view, beating the gang up in a bar to steal their bikes and destroying each and every one of them was justified. But then we find out that it wasn't. That should matter, right? Well, not to Robert fucking Rodriguez. Like, just spitballing ideas here. The Pikes could have at least framed this rule of respect Boba with his killing of the innocent biker gang, exaggerated a little, and painted him in a similar light to Jabba, turning the good people of the city against him and maybe even escalating into a John Wick 3 type of situation, where he has to now defend himself from the people he swore to protect. You can even draw bullshit ties to modern mob mentality. I don't care. Just do something that isn't going to make my toes curl from boredom. In the next scene, we get some time with Afro Lady. Now, again, I don't completely hate this character. Well, yes I fucking do, but as long as we don't devote 10 minutes to her putting together a ship that isn't even Boba's, I can take it. We get an X-Wing flying into her junkyard, And when it rolled up, I had the same feeling as I did at the end of Mando Season 2. Oh my god. Luke Skywalker. Shit's about to get real. But no, I guess they blew their entire budget on the last 2 episodes because he doesn't even make an appearance here, which is a thing you can do, I guess. So R2-D2 drove him all the way here by himself because Luke was what? Too busy teaching the other 0 students at his school? It's fine though. If any dark side Force users sensed Grogu's power and decided to try and kidnap him, I'm sure R2's flammable cum would do the job, right, Luke? Now, I will give my life to protect the child sounds an awful lot like... Next, we get a rundown from Fennec, who says that through the truce Boba made with the other families of Mos Espa, they'll be able to surprise the Pike soldiers. But how are they going to do that exactly? By unevenly placing their only soldiers on the perimeter of the city so that they can report if any Pike army shows up? Where's the surprise, Fennec? But you'd think that with how the logic of this show has gone so far, that this stupid ass plan would work, right? No, it just straight up doesn't. They all get swarmed or killed by soldiers that aren't even part of the Pike army because, whoops, the families that Boba made the most limp truce with didn't keep their word. Cad Bane comes to visit and Boba ices him with the coldest burn I've ever heard in my entire 21 years of existence.
I thought I smelled something.
I also really like this next line because the show doesn't even realize how fucking ironic it's being.
I don't negotiate with gutless murderers.
You won't negotiate with gutless murderers, but you'll work for them most of your life and hand over anybody they tell you to. Okay. Cad Bane catches a whiff of this thought and says,
You're going soft in your old age.
I know, right?
but Boba denies any negotiation, and out comes everyone's favorite character.
If I may be so bold as to offer additional counsel.
Kill him.
We get a montage of the scouts getting swarmed, and I just really love the fact that Chrysanthemum gets swarmed by almost the same amount of Trandoshans as there was at the bar, who are also completely unarmed. But Fennec goes to help a couple of them, and it's just Boba and Mando left, who get swarmed by the newly arrived Pikes. Whatever happened to, you can hide in your castle all you want, but we're staying. The people need our protection. Dude, you can't even protect yourself. Mando and Boba get surrounded, and before their battle, have a real heart-to-heart about Boba's desire to fight for the city, Mando's loyalty to him, and that they're both comfortable giving their lives today. We haven't had much bonding with these characters on screen, but it's already way more magnetic than what we ever got with Boba and Fennec. It's a good moment that flashes the ideals and morals of both people on screen, but it gets almost immediately interrupted and shat on.
If I may offer an alternative.
He offers to grant Boba passage off-world for a fee, I guess. He agrees, and the Twi'lek presents the terms to the Pikes, which are less really terms, but more of a flat-out threat, which I'm glad was the twist and not just Boba selling out. As a result, we don't see the mayor's goon die, and it really just slows down the emotions from Boba and Mando, so it kind of sucks. Right after, we see a jetpack fight scene, which is actually pretty mid, but because we've been starved of anything cool thus far, it passes, and it wakes you up like 5%. In the beginning, Boba said something about their skill being no match for the Pikes' numbers, but they're absolutely shitting on them. Maybe this is where it starts to get good, right? Well, right as they seem to be getting overwhelmed, the people of Freetown arrive to save the day. But there's only one speeder of them. The people of this town were the key to winning this war, and the fact that it's just 13 untrained townsfolk against waves of coming soldiers feels lazy and confusing. But it gets less confusing when you realize that this scene, and this little snippet here, and this one here, are the last time we see any Pike soldiers. So in the whole assault to take the city, they brought 30 to siege the ruins, which went down to like 9 after the duo slapped them around, and 10 here to just stand out in the open so the city folk's savior could increase her KD. What happened to wave after wave of trained marksmen rolling up to Mos Espa? Oh, they were never actually that much of an army, and dropped like flies when faced with a handful of Freetown people.
No! Stupid!
It really reminds me of the Battle of the Five Armies when we see an army of orcs bred for war and combat. Orcs who are seen demolishing armored dwarves and elves get the shit kicked out of them by the people of Lake Town. People that have no training, no armor, but probably have plot armor because the director feeds off stupid conveniences. but the badass shit really makes me forget all about that stuff. That movie had problems just like the rest, but at least they made an effort to give the battle some stakes, give the big bad some atmosphere, and genuinely tried to make shit look cool. It's the finale in a fantasy setting built around war. Make some sacrifices, take some risks, because when I think of war, I don't think of 0 casualties. I think of sacrifice, heroes laying down their lives for a greater cause. You don't have to have 100 versus 100 or anything, but at least give something weight. The Pikes take no lives, not even Chrysanthemum limping in the middle of the battlefield for 5 minutes. So how are we supposed to feel scared for characters that have been, huge air quotes here, developing for 6.5 episodes so far? You're not. So both sides end up feeling pretty limp. I can't be alone in feeling like that, right? So the Pikes arrive, overrun Boba and Mando, then the people of Freetown show up to push the enemy back. Alright, great. Now what comes next, I did not expect at all. Instead of more Pikes, Cad Bane, or a huge reveal like Bossk or IG-88, 2 massive droids approach the team. I've never seen anything like them in Star Wars before, so I was like, okay, let's see what these things can do. But then I thought, oh wait, I've seen this one before. The director was probably like, it's a big robot that looks like a Matrix-inspired ED-209 from RoboCop, but you know what? You know what'll throw fans off our trail? Let's put 2 of them in. And, give them droideka shields while you're at it, and call it a day. Yes, sir, so you want them to be the final boss, a real threat that forces our main characters to work together as a team, while tragically losing a few members along the way. Right? Nah, let's have them miss every shot, not only on the main characters, but the side ones, and the nameless people of Freetown.
What the hell is even that? These 2 will destroy the whole city.
Right.
Now, Boba throughout this season has been quite the dumbass, so when he fired at the droid shield and kept firing despite it not working at all, I wasn't surprised or let down. But Mando, a guy who we've seen pull some really smart shit and already have a bad run-in with an energy shield before, I didn't expect this from you. But nothing seems to work after about 100 shots are taken at the shields, so Boba pulls a vorpal and leaves for an undisclosed amount of time. Wonderful comms, King Fett. The TikTokers and Chrysanthemum get ambushed by a few Pikes, so this guy pulls the most unnecessary, awkward spin of all time out of his ass and ices the enemies, leaving without a scratch. Meanwhile, Mando's still distracting the droid. The type of droid that will single out one person when it's convenient, but attack Chrysanthemum and not finish him off when it sees a group of people to miss every shot on. This is such a good episode so far. But it's okay because we get to see my favorite Star Wars character save Mando. Now I'm sure she was told to scream throughout the entire rotation of the carriage, but maybe she lost her voice halfway through because despite having her mouth wide open, the sound guy didn't give a fuck about continuing the scream. Which is understandable, I'd quit my job halfway through that soundbite too. The pair gets a breather and Mando finds Grogu in the carriage. It's actually kinda cute, but the moment gets ruined by this dumpster fire of a quote.
Save your tender moment! We've got a Scorpion droid chasing us!
The one line that represents this whole thing. The thing that sums up the entire season for me and sums up what the directors envisioned for this show. Save your tender moment. We've got a Scorpion droid chasing us. Boba shows up with the baby Rancor, and I was like, okay, good thinking. It's here to break through the shield. Sounds good. But the first thing he does is shoot the shield with his blaster. And he keeps doing it.
Got me! Got me! Yes! Wow!
Eventually, the Rancor breaks down the shield, giving Mando the opportunity to just fail to land the kill shots so it can, reenact that one scene from Misery. Grogu sees this and comes in to save his dad from the approaching death. Cool, now we can see something new he's learned from Luke's training. Let's see how much stronger he's become. Oh, never mind, he just wants a toy. I was gonna say, it was getting too intense for me, and we haven't gotten any comedic relief in the last 2 minutes. I was beginning to think that this was a DC movie. The Rancor comes back to save Mando and rip the droid to shreds, then does the same thing to the other one. But Bane comes out of nowhere, flashes some fire, and scares the shit out of the Rancor, causing Boba to fall and have an intense 1v1. Final showdown, let's see something cool. Cad Bane says something I've been asking myself the whole time watching this season.
I've known you a long time, Boba. One thing I can't figure. What's your angle?
So we have an obtuse. But Boba gives a half-assed Batman speech. This is my city. Gotham's not beyond saving, and I'm going to stop you. Gets instantly dropped and unmasked. But I guess Boba watches Detroit Urban Survival Training because he pulls some bullshit maneuver on who I thought was the fastest bounty hunter we've seen so far. He gets the upper hand and plunges the spear right into his chest, which shocked the fuck out of me. Cad Bane has had barely any screen time on this show, and he's more interesting than most characters so far. Wait a minute, he is the most interesting character so far. Well, not anymore. Maybe. Death is a pretty blurry thing in this universe after all. One death that I'm absolutely sure of, though, is the death of this show. Because what the fuck did I just watch? But we're not quite done yet. Even though the Rancor saved the TikTok gang from the droid and was being manned by Boba, they choose to start shooting at it afterwards, which pisses it off, and it ends up trying to eat Mando. So Mando uses fire to scare it off like Cad Bane did, literally 5 minutes ago, but now it just pisses it off.
Don't worry, kid. Your old man's crafty.
Ugh, almost done. Grogu comes up to save Mando for the second time in the episode. Maybe now he'll do something interesting. Launch the entire Rancor, liquefy it, smack it into the building. Instead, he puts it to sleep. Fennec kills the mayor, the Pike leader, and the other leaders of Mos Espa. Just straight up. Will this affect the trout population? Well, it definitely won't put countless people in the city out of their jobs and bring all trade in Mos Espa to a standstill. Killing every figure of authority in the city without having any solid plan afterwards wouldn't have consequences, right? It's okay though, Boba's a smart guy. He'll figure it out. But for now, he has to lick his wounds, complain about people bowing to him, and say possibly the worst thing he could have said in this moment.
We are not suited for this.
Then why did you ask for it?
The episode ends with Mando and Grogu riding out into space to continue their family adventure. And that's it. That's where it leaves off. There have been bad episodes so far. There have been a couple serviceable ones. But after every sucky scene or horrendous line, I still had hope that they'd do something bold, treat Boba Fett a little bit better, or make his new direction interesting. Because that's all I really wanted. I wanted to enjoy it as a big fan of Boba, Star Wars, shows, movies, and fun. But it never did get better. And that sucks. It really does. But there is one bright side to the finale failing in such a fantastic way. I don't have to hold back anymore. I've seen a lot of shows, and I've seen a lot of movies. But The Book of Boba Fett is the worst show I have ever seen. Being a disappointed fan of Boba Fett is one thing, but taking a look from an outside perspective, what it does to its main character, how the characters interact with one another, how the plot is shaped, how it ends. Nobody learns anything. There are no stakes. It's impossible to care about anybody because nobody is presented as likable or human. There is only stupid. Every character in this show is a fucking idiot. It's easy to trash on Jon Favreau or Robert Rodriguez for this unforgivable dick cheese, but I think that everyone who threw in ideas, everyone who screen tested, and let this thing ship is equally to blame. This wasn't greenlit at Disney, it escaped, and should have been destroyed at all costs. It fails on every level and is just insulting. That's the one word I'd use to describe this show. insulting. Not even as a person who's into Star Wars, but just as somebody who's graduated preschool. This show, and I'm being dead serious, changed how I feel about Star Wars and human beings in real life. It actually made me think hard about what it's like to live in the head of somebody who sees absolutely nothing wrong with this show. It's one thing to not go in with any expectations, watch it as a good popcorn show with your family, chill out after work and not look at anything too hard. But if you've at least somewhat developed your brain, seen a couple halfway decent shows, and paid good attention to the creative decisions made by the writers and directors, I do not see how it's physically possible to rate this show high. I don't usually have ratings on shows or movies. It seems very definitive, and I enjoy thinking about films long after I've seen them, looking deeper, coming at things with different angles, and switching around the bad or good meter. Most of the time, I'm a big fan of second chances and double takes. However, once in a while, there comes along a show or movie that changes me in some way, that checks so many different boxes to the point where it's difficult to not have a decisive rating. So with that, here comes the final verdict. The Book of Boba Fett gets a 0 out of 10. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching one of the longest videos I've put together so far. And if you stayed this long, congratulations. I love you. If you enjoyed this video on any level, be sure to let me know, because I, for one, enjoyed the hell out of making this series, and I'm definitely going to do more reviews in the future. I am still a little bit busy in life at the moment, but I promise I'll make time where I can to make stuff for you guys. Thank you for the patience. All right, have a wonderful, beautiful day. Later.